What's up, YouTube? In this video, I'm going to talk about my first psychedelic trip. Before I make this video, I just want to say that this video is for educational, harm reduction, and personal experiences, and I don't condone or encourage anybody to use any drug, especially psychedelics. But if you do choose to, just make sure that you do your research thoroughly so you're not in a bad situation. Alright, so at this point in my life, I was just a curious stoner and I just wanted to experience psychedelics. I was pretty interested in them. I was doing a lot of research on them, just watching YouTube videos about it, and it just sounded so fascinating. I just wanted to experience that. I was a very open-minded person as well, so it was just hard to find some. And I can't say that I legit took real LSD because I didn't know at the time that there was research chemical, but so the first time I took it ended up being research chemical, but it wasn't as bad of a trip. It was still very spiritual, and it was very meaningful too, so it still had a enlightened impact on my trip. So I finally found someone that had tabs, and I ended up buying two because I took a tab before that, but it was just so weak and I didn't even feel anything at all. So I just wanted to be on the safe side and ended up buying two just in case they were weak. And so I planned the whole day out. I brought everything I needed, like tripping supplies, like a drawing pad, music on my phone, and just anything that I would need on the trip. So I ended up going to this really big park, and it was a very nice park, very open. There was a lake, a lot of trees, a lot of open space and grass. So that was just the perfect place to take it and just experience the trip. So I head to the park around 12 or so. I wanted to take it early because I heard that it could last about 8 to 12 hours, so I just wanted to have the whole day to myself. And I heard people saying that it's recommended to have a trip sitter, someone to watch you while you're tripping, but I always been more comfortable being by myself, and I just felt like having someone else around would just interrupt the trip, and instead of doing good, it would do bad. So I went to this nice little area. I sat on the bench and I took out the first tab out of the tin foil, and it was some Monopoly tab, and I drop it and it's really bitter, and I'm just sucking on the tab, and it just made my tongue kind of numb. And about 30 minutes after I took it, I started feeling a body high, and I knew this time it was gonna work. And so I just started feeling a really heavy body high. I just felt really tired, and I felt like I was coming up on it. And so I started heading to this the lake area, and at this point it was around 40 minutes, and I was just listening to music, and that song, have you ever seen The Rain? I don't know who it's by, but it's I wanna know, have you ever seen the rain coming down sunny day? As I was listening to that, I was seeing static visuals that kind of looked like raindrops. So I felt like the song was just talking about what I was seeing, and I just saw like rain kind of falling on a sunny day, and it was just, the song was just describing it perfectly. And from there I started heading to the end of the lake, and I sat next to some rocks. And this is when the trip started to kick in on the visual part. As I was sitting there, I started seeing like tracers and everything. I started seeing the birds flying around, and they just had a tracer behind it, as well as the leaves falling from the trees. Everything just had a tracer. And I remember at this point I was just drawing on my notepad, and I was just drawing what I was seeing. I was drawing the whole horizon, and I started having like imagery in things. Like I started seeing like images and stuff. As I was looking at the mountains, I saw the creases of the mountains so like detailed, and one of the creases looked like it had a W, the other crease was like a A, and what I saw out of the creases in the mountains, it looked like it said wasabi. And I just laughed at myself because I was like, wasabi, it was just so random. And I also remember I was looking at the water in the lake, and the way it was rippling, it was just so majestic. Like the water was just rippling in different, it's so hard to explain. It was just rippling like one side, and it overlapped the other side, and it overlapped under, and it was just really crazy the way the water was rippling and the way I was perceiving it. After being in that spot for about an hour, I decided to get up and go to a different location. Excuse me. And I got up, and I was just like, I went to a porta potty to use it, and then as I was in there, it felt like I was in there for like 5 minutes because it was so small, and I just ended up like bursting out. I felt like I was in there for like a long time, but I was probably only in there for like about a minute or so, or even less, I don't know. And after that, I just started heading up to this other part of the park, and like I was videotaping at the time too, and I just wish I had those videos because they were just so meaningful, and it was just like, I don't know. But anyways, as I was filming it, I saw my face just kind of like moving around like that, and I was just smiling. And I just headed up to this other part, and as I was walking, I like stopped because I saw something on the floor, and it was a lizard, and it scared me. But it ended up being a plastic lizard, and I picked it up and I laughed, and I was just like, oh, it's fake. And then I was like, everything is fake. After about like 4 hours, I kind of felt like the tab starting to wear off a little bit. I mean, not really wear off, I just felt like it kind of passed its peak. So I also brought a weed pen with me, and I was gonna smoke it, and I went to reach for it in my backpack, and I thought I broke it because it felt so weird, and I took it out, and it wasn't even broken at all. It was just how I had it, but the texture and things just felt so different from how they usually feel. And before I smoked the weed, I went down to this other area, and I took off my shirt, and I dropped the other tab, and I started drawing for a little bit more, and I was just seeing like patterns in the sky. Just like the whole sky was filled with patterns. And after drawing for like about 20 minutes, I put my shirt back on, and it felt so nice because I was just shirtless for like 20 minutes, and as soon as I put the shirt back on, the cloth, it was just like a warm hug around my whole body, and it just felt amazing. I started heading to this upper part of the park to smoke the bud, and I was just smoking it through the herb pen, and I ended up packing like 3 bowls or so, which is equivalent to 1 normal sized bowl through the pipe. But like, the acid plus the weed combined, it just intensified the visual. It just made everything more enhanced, like more than it already was. Like it gave me a more heavy body high with some visuals. And after smoking the bowls, I started walking back to the lower part of the park. And as I was walking, I was looking at the grass, and the grass pattern started kind of having an S, kind of have it was kind of having an S shape to it. Like as I was walking, the grass started looking like this, the pattern started looking like that. And for a second, I thought there was like two snakes slithering towards my feet, and I stopped, and then I was just like, I'm tripping now so bad. Or I was like, I'm tripping so hard. But I knew I was tripping, so I didn't think much of it after that. I just kept walking, but it just caught me off guard for a second. And from there, I went to this little area where there was like grass and there was a tree under me, and I went to lay down there because I was just felt like really heavy. I just wanted to stone to the ground. And like as soon as I laid down, I felt like I connected to the floor. I felt like I was the missing puzzle, or the missing piece of the puzzle, and I just connected so right on the floor. Just my back was just like melted to the floor, and so was my hands and everything. And as I was looking up at the tree, I could see like every single detail from the branch. It looked like the tree was like right in my face, even though it was like about 15 feet above me. And the branches looked like they were going like this, and it looked like they're kind of like tickling me, but without even touching me. It looked like it was trying to tickle me. And I was listening to music at the same time, and I just remember just closing my eyes. And as soon as I closed my eyes, I just started seeing an endless amount of geometric shapes, just super colorful shapes. Like if you ever look into one of those kaleidoscope things, and it's just an endless amount of shapes and colors. It was just like that, and it was endless, and it was so vivid too. And I just absorbed all the colors as I had my eyes closed, and that was very beautiful. And I don't remember how long I had my eyes closed, but I experienced that for a while. I don't know how long though. After laying in the grass for a while, I got up, and I just had a oceanic connection to everything. Like it didn't matter how close or how far it was. I just felt like every object that I looked, it was just connected directly at me. Like everything in my surroundings was just connected. And it's very hard to explain to a person that doesn't really know, or like doesn't, or hasn't tried any psychedelics. But it's kind of like weed in a way, how you just feel connected to certain things, but a more intense kind. After I was laying down, I went to this other part of the park to smoke another bowl. And after I smoked that bowl, I was looking at the mountains, and I looked up at it, and the mountain turned like electric. Like it started shooting like electric vibes right in my eye. It was just like, I don't know, it was pretty intense. It was just like, it's just so hard to explain, honestly. That you could only explain to a certain point, but that's how I perceived the mountains. It just looked very electric. And I heard through a speaker that the park was closing, because it was like one of those parks that you have to pay to go in, and I guess it was closing. So I had my bike locked up to this bench, and I went up to it and I unlocked it, and I started heading out of the park. And as soon as I headed out of the park, it just felt so like the environment was just so different. Like being in nature for a couple hours on psychedelics, and then going into the public, it just felt like weird. I just saw the cars passing by. There was like, and they looked like they were in super fast motion. And I remember when I got out of the park, I picked up an acorn, and I was just staring at it because it was so high definition. Like, I could see every single detail in the acorn. Or, my bad, it wasn't an acorn, it was a pine cone. And I was just staring at that, and the whole background was just blurry, and it was just focused on that one pine cone. And after just looking at that for a while, I set it down, and it was time to go home. So I hop on my bike, and this was the most beautiful experience on a BMX bike that I ever had. Like, as soon as I got on it, it was like the first time ever being on a bike or something. I just felt extremely connected to the bike, and the bike felt like it was connected to the floor. At the same time, I felt like me, the bike, and the floor were just all connected as one solid object. And it was just so beautiful because I just felt like I was just riding, and I just felt like the wind just blowing in my face, and I just felt like so connected. I remember thinking, I was like, I feel so alive right now. I just felt extremely alive, like the most alive I ever felt. Like when you're riding a roller coaster and you just feel like that feeling of alive. You're just like super what's the word for it? You feel like super energized, and you just feel like really happy, and that's how I felt. And I was just riding down this really long hill, and I was just hauling ass, and I just felt the wind hitting my face, and it was just so orgasmic. And I just ended up going home. I don't really remember much what happened after that, but throughout the whole trip, it was just a pretty good experience. And when I got home, I just went to sleep a couple hours later. And the next day I woke up like if nothing ever happened. But I just experienced that, and I was just looking through the videos I took. And I remember I took a video of the water or something because it was like looking geometric. And as I was watching the video, I didn't see any geometric shapes. And like, it was almost like a dream or something like that. But it was just so vividly. It was just like seeing the world through like a higher consciousness, and it was just a pretty good experience. And yeah, that was my first psychedelic trip. If anybody ever wants to try, say, LSD, just make sure it's real LSD. There's certain ways of telling that it's real, because research chemical is bitter, and I mean, some research chemical isn't as bad as some, but it's just good to avoid it, because like you could actually die from research chemical, and you feel like your kidneys want to explode, and it's just it's not a pleasant feeling. So just be safe and trust, get it from a trusted source. If anybody has any questions you want to ask me, just leave them on the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer them. And yeah. Alright, I'll catch you later, YouTube. Peace and love.